Hi, Wendy. Just here to sort of do a little overview of your time at United Way of Greater Toledo over these last 6 years. Just want to welcome you. I'm the incoming chair starting in July for United Way Board, which I'm delighted and honored about. Can you share a little bit about your background and parts of your background that helped prepare you for your position as CEO at United Way in Toledo?
Now, it's kind of funny because I started off in nursing and then got a master's in education and went to law school. I worked in so many different sectors. And what's funny is I don't seem like a very focused person. My mother would tell you that right out of the gate. But it really did help build out what you need to be, I think, strong in United Way leadership, or to really think about the different angles of the community. So you're thinking about the clients you serve who were once maybe my students and patients.
Yeah.
And then spending some time I did out of law school in government circles. And so really appreciating, where government agencies, where they are strong and where maybe they have weaknesses, where we can help fill gaps. And then I've really enjoyed the fundraising components and helping people be in touch with their philanthropy so that we all sort of rise together. So what seemed like a mixed, unfocused bag before is now, I think, making sense for what we're doing it in a way.
And you were in Ohio politics for a little while.
Yes.
Do you think that's informed all of your experiences?
It makes a huge difference. And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It's really understanding how the state house functions and the choices there and at the county level, because that's very important, I think, to United Way and then, the city. And so you have to work your way in and out and weave kind of together where funding comes from these organizations, how it impacts the nonprofit sector. And one of the rules we try to maintain here at United Way is the philanthropic dollars go in after the government dollars, because that's the gap filler we need to use as intentionally as possible. So it helps a lot. And then it's kind of a three-dimensional chess that you always think through.
Well, and that sense of collaboration, which I think is so powerful and so critical for United Way to then share out with the rest of our community, sort of demonstrate how we can all work together by talking together.
And understanding these electeds, how information is so powerful. So the data that we're using at this United Way in particular helps them, really understand how to organize what they want to accomplish.
First year as CEO, what do you think your biggest challenges getting off the ground were as you came in that first year?
Two lanes to that. First and foremost, some people are with United Ways their whole career, so they really understand the model. And for me, there was a lot to learn about the model itself, and that was very, very important. Obviously, there are things about community that you learn from this lens, and that's part of the education. But this United Way in particular, I'm afraid, was not in great shape reputationally. It had been going through a difficult time and not really knowing what its identity could or should be for this community. So that first year, you had to listen. Really listen to what everyone was thinking, what they would hope for their United Way to be, and then think about with your team how to craft a strategic plan that made sense for all of these people to feel their United Way was what it could do in the way of filling gaps and being there for people and resources and access. It had to evolve the plan for us. So a lot of listening that first year.
Yeah, I think those listening sessions were pretty maverick for a United Way CEO to really go out into the community and say, what's important to you? What do you see? What do you want different? And because I think people did have a lot of opinions. So, I mean, you went through COVID, and can you talk about some of those times a little bit?
Unfortunately, we've been here just long enough that, we could get 211 up in place. If you think about it, 211 here was reinstated with local community resource advisors because it had been outsourced to Cleveland. It was February 2020, right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful, and the leadership on this team who really made that work for our community. And then it became such an asset in getting folks registered for meals. The children, we had one day where more than 20% of the calls to 211 were children under the age of 18 trying to schedule a time to pick up food. And then for the vaccinations or getting, PPE and all these different things. But it really helped our United Way in a way understand the community more effectively and places for us to go in a way we hadn't seen each other before. And now I think that education, that data, everything that we could extrapolate from the pandemic helped us be stronger, and maybe to figure out how to facilitate and invest in our partners so they're stronger as well. Hope you never need to use any of that information again, but and then recovery from it. So I was really grateful to be in this position and to be a part of the community in that space, because it was really beautiful to see people come together.
It was amazing how fast United Way stepped up and got to work. And I can remember packing snacks and being at some of those food pickup centers with our youngest daughter, Justine. And it was remarkable, the level of organization and just get to it and get it done that United Way provided for the whole community.
Well, now you are vice chair for the United Way board, and you're going to start as our chair on July 1st, new fiscal year. How much did that volunteerism affect you and lead you to this place of leadership for our organization? I'd be curious how much that impacted your feelings then.
I think being able to be hands-on and in any kind of volunteer organization is powerful and a great sort of way to start at the ground up. So I met you and other people on the team and understood, the couple of different areas that United Way worked in, began to understand the level of food insecurity that this community suffers, and started thinking about how can we move the needle just a little bit. We should be able to shift a little bit. So I think those experiences, volunteering, made a big difference. Yeah. Talk about something that I think is really interesting and really forward thinking, the way you're using data and gathering data through United Way.
So in those listening sessions in the very beginning, it became pretty clear that we have a lot of folks, and especially at that corporate level, when they give their corporate dollars, they would like, in business, they use lots of data. They, I think, kind of wanted the same from the nonprofit community. So it made sense that we create an asset so that we could, really inform folks about what is needed in community, those gaps I mentioned, elected officials use it, our corporate leaders, but also just the day-to-day person so they can see how their community is progressing or maybe needs to progress in a different arena. And that really had to come through with some good analytics. Data science has progressed so much and so rapidly. Why wouldn't you use it in the nonprofit space? I have personally been certified in a few arenas, even in artificial intelligence, to understand how that can be applied in our sector, and owning the fact that that's, I think, the future of any organization. And I just didn't understand why we weren't using it quite like businesses do. Right. Return on investment. What are we seeing? So I think it's been for us to be able to communicate a value proposition. It's also, more importantly, been able to show us how to help partners collaborate more effectively, create logic models for their organizations. And then it's a little bit of that too. Can all of these organizations, because we're forcing the data issue a little bit and how you work together, but when they apply for funds, whether it's a government grant or from a foundation or any corporate partner, they can better demonstrate their impact because they've been kind of pushed into this conversation a little bit. And United Way can do that very, very constructively.
Everyone is raised up with that kind of information.
And it's hard. We and really appreciate what the Andersons and some organizations supported what we call our data liaison, because we had a lot of nonprofits who were like, oh, I don't do that, or we're not comfortable. It's like, let us help you get there. This isn't impossible. And what you might be able to do with this information in the future will really help you long run. Our United Way dollars, that's a little bit of money, but if you're able to take that data that we've worked with together and go get a whole lot more and bring more attention to our community and its needs, I think that's key, and that's why the data was so essential.
And that's kind of unique to United Way in Toledo, right? Gathering and having a data team that's at that level, and there aren't a lot of United Ways who are doing that.
No, and we really hope that model is something we can help other United Ways build out. We've been in conversations with a number of them as they've learned about how we're using it. Coming from a healthcare background where this was expected in hospital all day, every day, it seemed to make sense for the nonprofit sector. And then I like the fact that hospitals, as they're some of our partners as well, can trust us a little more when we're able to share this kind of information. So it comes from that world, but I feel like it's maybe a little more sophisticated than the United Ways have typically used, but proving that it works and that you can invest in it. And then we are also trying to figure out through shared services model, how do we make it really affordable for organizations to do this? So I think in our next iteration with our strategic plan, that's something we want to strive towards.
Can you talk about the strategic plan a little bit? That's sort of up and coming.
So after that listening session, our first year, our first iteration of the strategic plan was to build out the data, center. What's great about our data work too is having that high-level board of volunteers, whether they're in academia or information officers at organizations, security specialists, the kind of talent that we couldn't typically afford at United Way. They are really coming together and help us build that out. So over the last few years, really putting that in place. Also, the collective impact model where we are really aligning organizations to work collaboratively. So our first strategic plan a few years ago really focused on bringing these assets together. Our next plan now is to take these assets, now that they have demonstrated their validity and their, I think, how they support community and how they're utilized, along with 211, all the great data from 211 and the support systems. The strategic plan now is to talk about how we leverage all these partners together. We have grown the array of partners involved, and then it's about the funding. How do we really level up these partnerships and go seek some of those really big grant dollars out there? How do we see our government partners investing us in a way that they haven't historically? Because we just couldn't prove the success. So I think working together in this plan, that'll be about uniting the funders, uniting the conversation, so that everybody feels like this is a good investment, that they understand the information's consumable and they can see where continuous improvement is happening.
Can you talk about the updated mission and vision statement a little bit? Because I think that's a little bit of a change, and they're both very powerful statements.
Well, and when we were sort of recrafting them, it was to include data. It was to include the power of people in our community and how they weigh in on our I think how we measure and how we invest. And so we're really recrafting this for a more contemporary perspective that includes the whole community. A lot less about what United Way is choosing to do, but how United Way is affected by the choices of others. So when a donor gives to us, they know my voice is at the table too, because someone like me helps. Someone is volunteering and donating, but also evaluating where investments go or how the data is used. And so we really want our mission statements, our value statements, all of that to really, I think, encapsulate that this is for everyone to feel a part of. I thought it was interesting in our conversation with the board about that, and actually in the way that we've crafted the statement. The word data came before people, and I was really grateful to board members who said the word people comes before data. Yeah. We can get so caught up in kind of what we're trying to offer that is absolutely what we want to convey. So excited to share this in community soon, and then to see yourself. This thing in all of this that we're focusing on is client experience. Your businesses talk about that a lot. Well, we at United Way really want to focus on whether it's a client calling 211,
Right.
a client that is served by our agencies, a client is a volunteer, a client is somebody who donates to the organization, a client is a government partner who uses our data to make a decision. All of our clients deserve the best. And so really hearing from them and orienting ourselves to client service of that nature is exciting in this plan.
I'm excited to talk to the community about the mission and the vision and the strategic plan. I think it's powerful information. You've been now the CEO for 6 years, and I think have made huge progress within the community, collaborating with different parts of the community, understanding donors, creating a really strong board with strong community leaders across all areas. And what do you think about for your legacy? Not that you're leaving anytime soon, but going forward, how would you like people to think about your legacy?
So I like to think of, when I came into the organization, it was 100 years old. And so there's a part of me that was thinking, how does this exist for 100 more years? Or as I've said to myself, and it sounds weird, how could we be out of business in 100 years? Because we've done such a good job evaluating what needs to be invested in. How do we progress the community so that it's safer and healthier? And ultimately, so many of these agencies and so many of these nonprofits really aren't needed anymore because people are coming from a place where they can really take good care of themselves. They have the resources to do that on their own. And it's cultivating that environment that I'd like to believe in the long run that this data work, this collective impact model, the strategic communication with lawmakers, really understanding the needs of folks and ultimately investing wisely, that we could go away And yeah, I don't know if I'd ever live long enough to see that, but I'd like that because that means people are in good shape and then they can explore other parts of their lives in a way that, plenty of food, good housing, all that sort of thing. Their education is strong. And then, the orientation to the happier things or.
Yes.
And you as a board chair, I mean, you're coming in and boards, you think about you have time to cultivate something, your legacy as a board chair. What would you like to see?
Well, I think we're in the middle of some really exciting things at United Way. The data-driven approach is unique and powerful. I think we have opportunity to impact food insecurity in our community. I think we have opportunity to talk to each other as a community, to your point, about how are we all going to take care of each other. We are responsible for each other. And I feel so strongly that United Way is right there creating that conversation. It's an opportunity to have that conversation. And so I'm excited to just continue those discussions.
We're excited for you in your active interest in the food security space. When I joined the organization 6 years ago, I was asked to present on a subject I was concerned about in the Toledo area, and food security was the thing that really struck me as being a significant issue. And in a way, between the data and 211 and then hiring talented people who are really focused on that, and having volunteers who are, I think we're coming into an era, and especially during your chairmanship, where we're going after it. We are going to look at this food distribution model. We've been doing the research, we've held a summit, but we're about to go really level up on that one and try to at least get to a much better place, because this community has suffered at the hands of a bad distribution model for several years. It's well known in other circles nationally, but really appreciate you, MaryLouise Bowe, and the fact you were there packing those food kits. And then step by step by step, we're about to go to a jumping off place where I think really significant change can happen, and it will be much better in the long run.
Yeah, I think we can all believe, we should all believe that we can do better. We can do better for each other. So, yeah. Well, Wendy, it's been great talking with you. And I just want to say thank you for 6 years at United Way in Toledo. You've done a terrific job, and we look forward to many more years. And it's been great understanding the history and all of the remarkable work you've done over the 6 years.
Well, MaryLouise, thank you. I think we've been in the 6 years together. So now it's like we're gonna, it's again, really realize this moment where we can bring it all around. So thank you so much for your time.